orbiting Jupiter recently, about 6 weeks ago now, maybe 2 months. This was found by an amateur, not by a professional. So, I mean, it appears to me that there is some virtue in setting up a sort of Jupiter observatory. Now, there is the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers, but if you like, they're just a bunch of fairly disorganized people who take pictures of Jupiter, very good pictures of Jupiter, mind you. But what I did was essentially time-lapse of Jupiter over most of the night. Now, if you were to actually set up, if this is the globe, and Jupiter's, say, over where you are, if you have 4 observatories around the Earth, then they can actually keep a constant eye on Jupiter. Now, if you're in orbit, of course, you can do it all the time, but putting something into orbit's a pain in the ass. So, I mean, there is this potential for, the scopes are relatively cheap these days, the equipment to do these very high-resolution images of Jupiter is relatively cheap these days, and then all you need is the software to actually be able to pull all these things together, and you could have essentially a 24/7 observatory of Jupiter, although problem is it can only work for about 6 months of the year. But anyway, I mean, of all the things I could maybe, I don't know what sort of money the Thunderfoot channel.
Excuse me.
All the things you could blow cash on, that seems fairly sensible. Now, obviously, you could only do this with the collaboration of basically observatories. Right? You'd have to put up the scopes where the observatories are, simply because they got the clear skies. So, but yeah, so where is it? That one. That's the scope behind me, and that's almost exactly the configuration I had for doing the time-lapse of Jupiter. So, and people have asked how much these things cost. This is pretty much the as the scopes get bigger, you run into lots of factors that limit you. They get so big you can't carry them, they get too bulky that you can't move them around, and they get too expensive. And this one is basically, and you can't fit them in the car or move them around, that sort of thing. The thing behind me is an 11-inch SMEP, and the scope and the wedge on that weigh about 65 pounds, about 30 kilos, and that's about the largest scope you can comfortably carry around. And they clock in fully computerized at about $2,500, which is actually they cost about the same in England in pounds as they do in America in dollars. So that's the scope that I used, and then on the back of that, there are people who just use webcams to do the imaging, and they're only about $100 a shot, and you really can't. If you see some of the images that people have done with webcams on Jupiter, it's phenomenal what you can do with a $100 webcam these days. So what we got in the way of questions? Oh yeah, the Bible is coming up. After some considerable thought, it has come to me that, well, it is my reckoning that people like Sam Harris, Hitchens, Dawkins, they have identified issues with religion, right? But you then, having identified issues, you need to move towards solutions. And in having talked to people like Ray Comfort, it appears to me that presenting evidence to these people really doesn't register. I mean, it's very good for, I mean, this is the sort of irony, is the, why do people laugh at creationists videos, and, a bunch of these pro-science videos, they were done to to try and actually convince some of these creationists that there were serious issues with what they were, with the way they were approaching things, and it essentially became a rallying point for the free thinker community, which is that, I mean, that's great in itself, but you know, really, that's helped some. But what you really want to do is engage with these religious folk, and in that sense, you know, they're very hooked onto the Bible, and I was stunned by the mere act of reading the Bible, or at least about half of it. I had become essentially a Bible scholar, to the point where I could actually hold down conversations with Bible scholars and in a sensible fashion. And that was sort of stunning for me, because if you're like, when you actually get into science, the minimum entry level is a sort of degree, and that takes you about 3 years. And then the minimum entry for doing research is a PhD, and that's another 3 years. So you're into at least 6 years to actually become a competent scientist. Then you compare this to what it took me to become essentially a Bible scholar, which was about a month. You know, sort of reading it on the road, listening to it in audio book form. And yeah, I was stunned at how easy that was. You watched the IA video. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I mean, my reckoning is that the night before I did another time lapse, but the seeing was much worse. And for some reason, the whole thing had trouble holding the focus. So I wonder whether it's actually a problem with the optics in the webcam. But I mean, the strange thing about all that is it does give fairly impressive views of Jupiter for considering how automated the whole thing was. So, what else we got? So, did Hayden have anything interesting to say? I missed that, by the way. DPR, you're going to sleep on us there.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. I'm typing. I can actually speak. I forgot about it. No, she's said that she loves you.
Oh.
Don't get too excited about it, because she's told everyone that throughout the whole program, and she's now actually in breach of a restraining order that I've got against her. So I'll be pursuing legal action. I mean, the woman is insane. She thinks that she is actually Claire Burnett. She thinks she is indestructible. She can do anything she wants and get away with it. This is what happens with arrogance and, you know, a pithy little bit of fame in a crappy series, and it all goes to her head, and, you know, you end up with this nonsense. I've tried kicking her, but she's indestructible, so she just keeps coming back.
Well, yes. The joys of being indestructible, eh?
Well, to be fair, you adopted a similar approach in your latest travels. I mean, you did put yourself in certain physical danger.
To be honest, I mean, this is the crazy thing. I mean, despite all the climbing around on the rocks alone and all that sort of thing, probably the most dangerous thing I did was the driving. As in, I chalked up, I think it was just short of 14,000 miles. And the car still gets good gas mileage, does about 35 to the gallon. So I worked it out. It's about 400 gallons of fuel or something. And yeah, just so you know, that's actually, I did do the numbers once. I think that actually worked out as comparable to what the air flight would have taken. Yeah, cars get considerable comparable mileage, I think, to what you would get if you per person fly the same distance. Yeah. When you rode 3,000 miles, I take that was on a motorbike, yeah? That's to Aaron Ra. I mean,
Anwar doesn't need a motorbike, he just floats. He is Bigfoot, he is God.
now, I mean, you see progressively more people